Hey everybody, welcome to part 2 of this introduction to Adobe Fresco with Let's Go Fresco. I'm your host Kyle Webster, and I'm glad you're all here with me. We have so much ground to cover today, my goodness. Part 1 you can go back and watch anytime you like over on Behance or on YouTube. Speaking of Behance, if you're watching over on YouTube at the moment or on Twitter, I am over here at Behance, be.net/live. That is where you can find the live chat where I'll be answering questions and talking to people. So please do go ahead and join us there if you have any questions for me during the show. Quick hello to some folks. Cody, hello, and Vat, and Andreas, and Sean, and Steve, and Sean. Sorry, I just said Sean. And who else is here? I'm scrolling up trying to catch all the people. Annika, nice to see you. Folks, thanks for being here with me. I'm going to jump right in because we have so much ground to cover. Today we're going to be talking about multicolor swatches. We're going to be talking about time-lapse and snapline and drawing aids and vector shapes and importing images from your camera roll and masking and clipping masks and reference layer fill. And we're going to try and get to just a really brief intro to perspective and animation as well. But don't worry, this is a series of shows, so we're going to have plenty of time to get into a lot of that really juicy stuff. So without further ado, let us head on over to my iPad where I will pick things up where we left off. So covered a lot of stuff last time, and here we are back in Fresco. Got a nice document open here. Now we covered a lot of the tools over on the left. I'm just going to go ahead and turn on my touch settings so you'll be able to see everything that I do right here in the app. There we go. Follow the blue dot. See that? That's where I'm tapping on the screen so you know what's up. Over here on the left, you would have seen all these lovely tools we went through, and there are a few we didn't cover. We're going to jump right now into some of those, starting with the paint bucket tool. So let's just grab a lasso tool here. We talked about making selections, and in Fresco you can make a selection by drawing a selection. You can pick up at any point and you can tap on the screen to make straight edge portions of that selection. And if I continue to draw elsewhere, I can add to this selection as well. If you look down here at the bottom left, there's a little option right here where you can switch the mode of your lasso tool. One is additive and one is subtractive. Now if I tap on that subtractive one just beneath it, look at this, I can just draw like that and it's going to cut away part of that selection. I can draw through here and cut away part of that selection. But as you may recall from last time, we also have this very handy little friend right here. This is our touch modifier. So if I don't wish to come over to my menu over here on the left with my toolbar and start tapping and switching things around, I don't have to because I can use the touch modifier. Let's hold that down and draw over here. And you'll notice that it cuts away part of that selection. And so this means I can add to my selection and I can hold down the touch modifier and remove bits of my selection without having to travel over to the toolbar. How nice. Now we have these little bits of selections here on our canvas. We want to fill them with color. I grab my paint bucket tool right here. Looks like a paint bucket. And let's select a color. So come over here to our color wheel. And I'm going to tap and fill. Just like that. Easy peasy. Grab another color, tap and fill, grab another color, etc. You get the idea. Okay. But what if I do this? What if I grab a brush? So we'll go ahead and get a brush from the basic category, just something really simple. Hard round variable brush. Okay, nothing fancy there, right? And I'm just going to do this, make a shape. And then I'm going to grab that paint bucket tool and I'm going to select black and just tap and fill. Now wait a second, I don't like this. Look at that white line in there, showing me the break between the line art and the fill. Little pixel gaps there. That's no fun. But don't worry, this is a dynamic fill, folks. The fill is not committed until, if you look over here on the left, you use the color margin slider. So if I slide that up, and up, and up. Hang on, I gotta do this again, sorry. Here we go, tap, fill, there. Notice the difference. Now it's applied that color margin for me, okay? My finger must have grazed the surface of the canvas there when I was trying to fill earlier. So why don't I demonstrate that for you one more time. Draw something, okay, and tap to fill. And you'll notice that the color fill is absolutely perfect, okay? But if I slide this down a ways, you see those white pixel marks again. And as I slide up and up and up, you see those starting to vanish until they're gone. So you have control over how much of your fill is going to sort of combine itself with the area in which it is filling, okay, using the outline, if you will. Now, what does this mean? Well, this means you could add something with like a textured brush. For example, why don't I grab something that's got a bit of tooth to it? So if I go to the inking category and I do something like the classic comics nib, okay, draw a rectangle. If you look at this, it's a bumpy edge to this brush, not perfectly smooth. So if I were going to use my color fill with this, I don't have to worry because I've got my color margin numbers over here set very, very high. So I know that Fresco is going to intelligently fill in all the gaps that would normally be there so that you don't see any evidence of that outline. So this is very nice. But this brings up another thing I want to point out to you, which is a very handy feature, especially for those of you who do line art and fill it with flat color, who do comics work and things like that. I'm going to show you a real time saver. And these are important tips, so take notes, gang. Let's turn this off for a moment and make a new layer. And I'm going to grab my brush again, and let's go ahead and draw ourselves, bear down a bit more with some pressure. And it's always hard for me, by the way, to draw with that blue dot following me around. I'm doing this for your benefit so you can see where I am. So don't judge this ridiculous drawing. Okay, so let's make a face. Boop, boop, boop. There we go. And we'll come around here like that. And then I'm going to give this person ears so they can hear the broadcast they are watching on Adobe Live. And let's give them a little sort of a beret of some kind, okay? Boop. Funny little hat like that. How's that? Okay, now, can't complete the look without a little turtleneck. So here's our person. Now, if I wanted to fill this with color, my preference would always be to do this on a separate layer. So what I'll do is I'm going to tap over here where my layers are, and I can tap on layer actions. I can add a layer from there. I can show layer, hide layer. There's a bunch of cool stuff you can do. We'll get to some of that stuff in a minute. But over to the right here, very simple, there's also a little plus sign. I can just tap on that. So now I have a brand new layer sitting underneath my line art. Well, what I want to do is I want to fill the colors in there. That's where I want my color to be, okay? And so here's the ticket. Come over to the line art, tap on the line art layer, and look right here, gang. See where I'm tapping? Set as reference. See that? I'm going to say set as reference. Okay, great. Then I'm going to come back to the layer underneath it right here, okay? Let's get our paint bucket tool and let's go back to some of those colors we were using because our color history is all right here, down at the bottom. Recents. You can see every color you've ever used in your document right there. How convenient. And I'm going to grab that yellow color and just tap right here. Holy cow. What's going on? It's using the line art layer above it as a reference for where to fill. See this? So easy peasy. What a time saver. Bum bum. Just like that. And so now I can do this. Now let's turn off that line art layer. You can see here that everything has been filled underneath the line art. Okay, turn that back on. Voila. So now I can keep my line art and my color separate from one another, and there are no issues with any of those little pixely bits showing up. Everything traps nicely behind the line art. Okay, so this is a very handy feature. Abracadabra says, Adobe Cadabra says Cody. Sorry, Adobe Cadabra, I love that. Rufus used to say that. Maybe he still does. You don't need to have the blue dot, on it, guys. As you know, it just helps for demonstration purposes. Right, so there you go. Check that out. Isn't that great? By the way, when I was in the middle of doing all that, you may have noticed that to fill the eyes, I paused for a moment, and all I did was touch the screen where the blue was. See that? Now, we may not have covered this last time, but this is a really handy touch shortcut where I can touch anywhere and grab some color. Okay? Look at that. Just touch, grab a color, paint with it. So that's reference layer fill. Now, I can tap on that line art layer and I can release it. See this? Release reference. Okay? And now everything is back to normal. Okay? You can use a reference layer for multiple layers. So I could have 5, 6, 7 layers of color underneath that line art, all separate from one another, but still all referencing the same line art. Very handy indeed. Now, I want to show you something else, because we were just talking about shortcuts there for a moment, all right? And we were talking about me touching the screen to select color. Well, one thing we didn't get to last time, because it's kind of a big deal and requires a bit of time to explain, is the multicolor eyedropper feature in Fresco. Well, it's just what it sounds like, believe it or not. You can select multiple colors and load them onto any brush and paint with multiple colors on a brush. Check this out. Let's grab our brush. Let's put some color down here. We'll use our little sort of primary colors here that we've already been working with. There you go. Now normally I hold my finger here and I grab a color, I grab a color, I grab a color. This is what you'd expect, right? Look at the top right corner. It's giving me the HSB values of each of these colors as I slide around. How convenient. All right, but remember our friend the touch modifier, okay? I'm gonna hold down the touch modifier with my thumb. Now I'm a lefty, so I'm using my right thumb. I'm just holding it down, and then I'm gonna touch on the screen again. Look at the top right. It says multiple colors. So I'll let go. Oh, look at this. If I come over to my colors, look at this area right here where it shows me a preview of the swatch that I'm going to paint with. It has 3 colors in it. Curious. So why don't we go back to something like our hard round variable brush, and let's just do this. Whoa, wait a second, gang. See what I'm talking about? Now we're getting crazy. So you can paint with multiple colors on any brush, as simple as that. Just sample something from the canvas and start painting. Now I've done a series of videos on this feature. You can look them up if you go to Behance or YouTube and search for Multicolor, and then my name, Kyle Webster, and Fresco. You're going to find a whole bunch of neat stuff you can do with this. But I will quickly point some of them out for you right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and hide some of this business. Make ourselves a new layer. Check this out. I've got that multicolor swatch still selected, right? Why don't we take one of the watercolor brushes, which you saw last time around, and paint with it. Yes, it does work with the live brushes. So I can paint watercolors with multiple colors. I can do the same thing with the oils, okay? Look at that. So fun, okay? Pretty powerful stuff, but that's not all. But wait, there's more, as the old TV ads would say. Why don't we try something like this? I'll just go ahead and make my brush smaller so I got a bit more control over what I'm doing. I'll just do this. I'm going to erase with this brush. Remember, hold down the touch modifier. That makes it possible for me to erase with the same brush I'm drawing with. So we're going to make some sort of a leafy thing here. All right. So got a little bit of a sort of a leaf design here. Nothing too fancy. Let's go ahead, zoom out. Now, the way you control how much of the canvas you're selecting is by zooming in or zooming out. So if I zoom out a ways, hold down that touch modifier and do this. Just grab that, and I can even zoom in a bit, be really picky about how much of this real estate I select, so I get every little bit of it right out to the edges. Okay, see this? Bum, 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 bum. Just like that. Now I've selected this leaf pattern as a multicolor swatch. You're like, well, Kyle, there aren't multiple colors on there. I say, I know, don't worry about it. Here's what we're gonna do. First thing we're gonna do is grab our hard round variable brush, which we were using a moment ago, right here. And let's look at our brush settings right down here at the bottom. Anybody who's used Photoshop knows about brush settings, ways to control and change how the brush behaves. And there's a lot to play with in here. We could spend 2 hours on all that. But I want to quickly show you some simple things. Spacing. This controls the distance between the stamp and its successive stamp on the canvas as you're painting. All right. So if I increase that spacing, I can now see the individual little brushies there. All right. And here under Shape Dynamics, I'm going to make it so there's a size jitter. Jitter means you're going to have random changes. So I want to make that so that the size of the leaves sometimes is larger, sometimes is smaller. I'm going to change the angle of the leaves so that they're randomly bouncing around. Okay, left, right, etc. I'm going to flip their orientation. Sometimes they're flipped one way, sometimes they're flipped the other way, like you're mirroring them, okay? And let's go back right here to one more thing, scattering. I'm going to scatter these. That means they're not going to follow my brush exactly along the line as I paint, okay? Neato. And let's see what that does. Let's make our brush a little bigger here. Just sizing up the brush. See this number right here? I can slide that up. You can also long tap on the number and get a very specific, punch in a number for yourself. Make a nice big brush. And let's see what that does. Oh, see? I just basically made myself a custom brush right inside the app, and now I'm painting with it. But wait, there's more. What if you want to change the color of that? I don't maybe want to do something that just uses this black color, okay? No worries. Let's clear that layer. Tap on the layer. Fourth option down, clear layer. Just erases everything on there. Check this out. HSB sliders. Here we are in our color wheel. One of the things you can open is the HSB sliders. If you have a multicolor swatch, like we do here, you can adjust the color, the brightness. If I start to increase that brightness and that saturation, look at this. I can go anywhere I want with the colors. Okay, let's go for a nice green, really rich, like that. Bright and beautiful. And there we have some green now. Okay, so maybe I want to do a sort of a decorative border around some springtime kind of illustration that I'm making. Well, I just create myself a little custom brush right here in the app using multicolor swatches, and Bob's your uncle. Where's that expression come from? Maybe you don't have an uncle named Bob, you know. See how easy that was? Ta-da! Okay. So yes, you can do all kinds of things with multicolor swatches using multicolor eyedropper to select them and create good things. Now, if you don't like using the touch modifier, okay, if that's not your bag, don't worry. You can still do this. Let's turn this back on. At the bottom of our toolbar here, you will see the little eyedropper tool. Now, this makes it possible for me to navigate anywhere in the document and select a color, okay? And it pops me back to my brush and I start painting with that color, all right? But if I come to the eyedropper tool and I look down here at the bottom where you find options for your tools, you'll notice that there is a solid circle and then there's this circle that's been divided into fourths. That pulls up my multicolor eyedropper. So now I can do the same thing as before. Zoom out, position this exactly where I want, and now I've got my multicolor swatch. Okay, so you don't have to use the touch modifier if you don't want to. There you go. All right, now let's come back here for a moment and just show you something that you can do with text, because that's our next tool that I want to talk to you about. We're coming back to vector shapes, I promise. All right, these are pretty nifty. We're going to talk about text here for a minute. All right, I want to add some text to this image. Let's see, I'm going to first do this. I'm going to select these bits where I was showing off what the multicolor eyedropper does. Select those, and at the bottom I have these options for my selections. I can erase, I can mask, I can deselect. I'm going to erase those and then deselect. Come back to our text tool, and let's grab a color for this. I think we'll just use black for now. And with my text tool, I have options. I can tap on the screen, just like that. And I could then pull up my keyboard and start typing. All right, that's one way to do it. But let's go back. I'll switch to another tool, and that'll leave that text there for now. Let's come back to our text tool, and let's do this. Tap and drag. Now I can control the area within which I'm going to be typing right off the bat. So you can either tap and start typing and then make some changes, or you can tap and drag. Anybody who's used Illustrator or Photoshop is familiar with this, or InDesign or anything else. Now, when you've got your type, look over here to the right. See what happens? You get a nice little panel that opens up with all the things you'd expect to find, such as the font. All right. And by the way, folks, just so you know, although you do have, of course, your system fonts and a couple of other basic little goodies in here, I want you to notice something about fonts. If I come all the way to the bottom here, I run out of options because these are the fonts that I have on my iPad. But wait, at the very bottom, there's another thing that says more fonts. What happens if I tap on that? Font heaven. Look at all of these categories: Art Deco, Black Letter, Brush Pen, Calligraphic, all the way on down: Futuristic, Rough, Rounded, School, Shaded, Wedding, Western. And then if I tap into any of these, like if I just select Comic, for example, look how many fonts. All comic fonts. Just in this one category, okay? And that's not all. Now, if you've got the free version of Fresco, which most people I'm sure are enjoying and loving, this is what you get. You get these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of fonts. But there's more to it than that. If you wanted to, you could also load fonts from the Adobe Type library in here, which is over 14,000 fonts that you could be playing with, okay? See down here at the bottom, it says thousands of fonts from Adobe fonts are included with subscription to Creative Cloud down here. If you open the Creative Cloud mobile app from there, you can browse all those fonts. You can activate any of them, and they'll activate right here in Fresco, and you can use them. So really, the sky's the limit there. All right, but anyway, back to our type. Now, if I double tap inside the type, right, and then I come over here to the right where there's these little lines here, it's going to open up my options. Here I can go ahead and change the font. So we'll go ahead, let's do something like a marker font, okay? We'll do this one. All right, there we go. That reminds me sort of like of the lettering in asterisks. That's why I like it. And we come back here now to our type options. Here you have some options for the type. If it's only one family, that's what you're going to get. Easy. Look at this for size. You just tap on the size, and there's this little way to scroll up and down to adjust the size. I really like this. I wish all of our apps had this, to be honest. This is such a nice way to change the size because you can get so specific. It's so nitty-gritty. But you can punch a number in as well if you like. You have your leading, you have your kerning right here, leading, okay? You got your kerning right here. You can do all caps. You can change how it is justified already. All those things, just like you want. And if you are wishing to resize the type, just go ahead and tap on the transform tool. Remember that arrow? And then you can go ahead and do that. You can move it anywhere you wish, and so on. So we're going to do more with type in a future episode of Let's Go Fresco. I wanted to point out how it works and show you that it's there, so you can start playing around with that if you wish. Alrighty, excellent. Now we come up to our vector shapes. So if you look over here on the left of my little blue dot, we have this category, vector shapes. Now when I first tap on it, you might be confused, and I'll turn off these layers so you don't have to see them for a moment. Just hide those. When I tap on vector shapes, okay, the first thing that shows up is a shape right here. And when I say shape, I mean an image. This is a drawing I did for my picture book agent, Mr. Chad Beckerman. Wonderful guy. And I decided to turn it into a piece of vector art. Well, how do you do that? Very simple. I drew this in Fresco using pixel brushes. And let me just fill this for you, because look, with shapes, you have all kinds of cool options. At the bottom down here, I can fill, I can erase, I can mask, and I can make a selection. So I'll go ahead and fill it for now, just to make it easy to look at. Now, because I'm on a new layer, it says, do I want to make this a vector layer or a pixel layer? I'll go ahead and say pixel. And there you go. So now, check this out. This drawing that I had done with pixel brushes and turned into a vector shape got stored in my Creative Cloud libraries. Like my colors can get stored, my fonts can get stored, my brushes can get stored. All these wonderful things can be stored in your libraries. And vector shapes are no exception. So let's take a look over here at vector shapes and see what we see. When I tap on the icon for vector shapes here, what you're going to find are library shapes. Now, if you're familiar with Creative Cloud libraries, and we've talked about them many times here at Adobe Live, these are basically your suitcase of tools that follow you everywhere you go with your Adobe ID. So if I go to fly to Singapore and I log into a friend's computer and sign in with my credentials, my libraries automatically show up like magic. And here are all of the shape libraries I've created in the past, okay? Or libraries that I've created with other things in them, such as brushes or whatnot, that also contain shapes. So let's come on down here. Drawings vectorized. This is the library I currently have selected, which means I have a drawing of Rufus right here. All right, why don't we take a look at that? So I can, while I've got that here on the screen, I can resize it, place it anywhere I like, and we'll make a selection of it, okay? So down here at the bottom, I can say select. We'll make a selection of Rufus. And I'll go ahead and hide this other drawing here. And let's do something fun. Let's grab our watercolor brush right here. Nice big watercolor wash brush. And let's go back to our multicolor swatch. Remember our multicolor swatch? It's still here, just waiting for us. There it is. With our yellow, red, and blue. And let's do this. We'll just, because it's a selection, I'll use the watercolor to fill in this drawing of Rufus. And deselect. Haha! Check it out. Multicolor Rufus in the house. Okay, now look at this. Isn't that great? Vector shapes. You could do a drawing one time and it can show up over and over and over again in your art, right? Isn't that fun? And you can turn it into a selection. You can paint inside of it. And you can, let's see, what else can you do? Well, you can mask it. We haven't even talked about masks yet, right? But you can mask it. You can turn it into another vector shape by simply pasting it into the canvas as vector, doing some changes to it, and then exporting it again, simply as a PNG if you wish, and then transforming it into a vector shape through Adobe Capture. Now that's the key. That is where all of these shapes have come from for me. Adobe Capture. If you're not familiar with Capture, you've got to download it. It's a free app. It allows you to create vector shapes, brushes, to identify type, to create color palettes, to create surface textures for 3D objects, to do voice recording work. What else can you do with it? You can create patterns, seamless tiling patterns, all kinds of crazy things. All kinds of crazy things, okay? Really, really something. So anyway, vector shapes are kind of magical. You create them in libraries. I use Capture to create all of them. It's so easy. I do a drawing in Fresco, like this woman blowing a bubble, right? And I go ahead and just hide Rufus here for a second. And I'll just go ahead and fill this. Maybe we'll make this one a vector layer. And I say, okay, good, cool. Now that means that when I'm done, if I zoom in, you'll notice it's vector art. See, infinitely scalable. Voila. But you could do a line art layer. You could come in here, you could use that color fill option behind it with reference layers and things like that. But then I could export this, and let's do that. We'll just come up to the top right here where all of your export options are. Right here, bum, bum, that little share option. If I do a quick export, I can just save the image like that. And it's going to show up in my camera roll. Then I can pop over to Capture, and I can open that, and I can say, make this a vector shape, please, and Capture will say, okay. Takes about 5 seconds, and you add it to whichever library you want. Libraries are magical. All right, I hope this is getting you guys excited. Hope it's giving you some ideas for all kinds of cool things that you can do. Alrighty. Now this person is sitting here, and everything's cool, and there's no context, all right? We just have a floating head. What if I wanted to draw a line somewhere behind them to establish some kind of a ground plane? Well, for that, I'd want to draw a straight line. So this brings us to a new thing I want to talk to you about today, which is drawing aids. First of which is this. If I draw a line, oops, let's use a brush that hasn't been modified. I'm going to reset this brush. See down here? Just tap on it. Reset. Easy peasy. I'm going to draw a line from left to right like this. And wait, what just happened? I waited at the end of the line, I didn't break contact, and all of a sudden, it made a straight line. See that? Perfect. Isn't that nice? So I could draw a straight line anytime I want by drawing, pausing, at the end of the line. Whoops, I did 2 lines there. Pause, and it'll snap into a snap line. So we can do straight lines. Ba-bum, pause, straight line. Now, to make sure that you have this capability, if you wish to have it, you want to come over to your settings in Fresco, which are right over here with this little gear icon, okay? Here you see your canvas. You can flip the canvas, you can rotate the canvas, you can deactivate touch shortcut, all kinds of things. Let's go to app settings for a moment. And in here, I'm going to, under input, the second category right here, okay? Touch, here we go. At the very bottom, you see where it says snap line right there? I have that turned on. You could turn it off if you don't like it, but make sure it's turned on if you wish for this to be a feature that you can use. And then you can go ahead and draw straight lines this way, all right? While I'm here for just a moment, I want to point out, by the way, that your app settings, everything you need is here. If you like to have your toolbar on the right, Fresco's very customizable. You can switch it over. You can go from your dark to your light mode. Okay, see that? Different modes for viewing everything. You have time-lapse setting. I like to keep the quality super high for time lapses, so I can get a 4K time lapse if I wish. See that? 4,096 pixels you could do for a time lapse. That's crazy. All kinds of nifty things. And then for input, you can decide if you want your fingers to do certain things when you're drawing. At the moment, I just have my fingers do gestures only because I only want the pencil to be something that does brush work, etc. How long do you want to have your duration for the eyedropper when you touch and hold on the screen? Very customizable. All right. But back to our drawing aids. Now, what if you don't like snapline? You say, I don't want that to pop up accidentally if I'm trying to draw a curvilinear line. Right? Well, there are a couple things. One, if I do a curvilinear line and pause, and whoops, it did that dot thing again. I'm not pausing very well. And it makes a snap line. Sorry, gang. I can't get it to work because I can't see with that blue dot. There we go. What if I made that line and I didn't like it? If I do Command Z one time, okay, as in double tap to undo, it snaps me back to the line that I drew originally. So don't worry, you haven't lost that line. It's not like it just disappears. Okie dokie. But you can also do this. Here at the bottom right, okay, see over this way? There's a little ruler down there. What happens if you tap on that ruler? Well, you get a ruler. You can rotate this ruler, okay? You can position it anywhere on your canvas, and you can draw with it. Now let me tell you why I like the ruler, because people might be like, well, that's redundant. If I can do snapline, what do I need a ruler for? I'll show you. What if you want to do this? Draw a line, and then draw a line at exactly the same angle right next to it. See what I mean? This is the kind of thing I like the ruler for. I can draw consecutive lines that all share the same angle. That to me is great. Bounce over to another part of the drawing, maintain that angle if I need things to be parallel for some reason, right? Draw a line and do this. This is what I really like. Break it up and keep that line, okay? So yes, the ruler is a very valuable tool, of course. You can draw on either side of it, this side, that side, doesn't matter, all right? You also, by the way, when you're drawing with the ruler, get a measurement that shows up. So check this out. I'll come over here and draw. Watch. As I'm drawing, look at that. It says 568 pixels, 568 pixels. Okay, snap. It tells me how long that last line was. Actually, no, it's giving me an orientation. Now, hold on a second. I thought there was a mode we had where you could actually measure while you're drawing. Maybe I'm getting it wrong. Maybe I'm not understanding. There we go. That's what I want. See that? It started at 1. Something else was going on there. 0. I want to get exactly the same number. I can do it. Okay? 260 pixels is my goal. Here we go. Slow down and 60 pixels. See that? That's really nice. So if you have to draw a line that's exactly the same length somewhere on your document more than once, you can do so with the ruler. Now I'm going to long tap on that ruler down here, and I want you to see we have some other cool things, like a circle. Let's move that circle over here, right? What if I wanted that bubble to be a perfect circle? I can move the circle anywhere and just start drawing, and it's going to snap to that circle. And I can move that circle elsewhere. I'm using my finger, by the way, to just move the circle. If I tap below the circle, put it up here for you guys to see this. There's a little gray bar under the circle with a transform box. If I tap on that, it allows me to transform the circle. I can turn it into an oval, okay, etc. Resize it, move it anywhere I like. If you start drawing near the edge, it just starts to follow along. So I could do something like that, all right? Tap on that circle down at the bottom and turn off my drawing guides, and now I've got something like this. Pretty nice. And you'll notice we also have things like square and polygon. So polygon, for example, if I were to tap on it, you have a little negative and a little positive. Now this little negative is going to make it so that I can reduce the number of sides, and the plus sign is going to increase the number of sides, okay? Also very handy dandy. So a lot of good drawing aids that you can play with there for precision drawing, if you wish, okay? Very nice. All right, let's hide all this business. And have I mentioned, I think I have, and I'll mention it for the 1 billionth time, Fresco has unlimited layers, so you can just draw. And things are gonna go and go and go until your iPad finally catches fire, and that's the end of it. But if that does happen, don't worry, because your file is saved. Remember, it's a cloud PSD. So the iPad catches fire, and you throw it out the window, and some squirrels start to play with it. And meanwhile, your work is still safe and sound up in the old cloud. You just go and get a new iPad and start drawing again, okay? Now, we're gonna move on. We gotta show some other things. I mentioned a second ago time-lapse. Well, yes, of course, we wanna have time-lapse. What is that? If you go to your export options again, we have this at the top, publish and export, where you have all these lovely options. You could do a quick export, just save it as an image or whatever. But you can also save it as a PNG, a JPEG, a PSD, a PDF, right? Very nice. What about the bottom here? Time-lapse export. Yay! Well, what is that? It's just going to show us everything we've done up until this point as a video. And remember, I have high settings on this, like high quality. You can play it as a preview. It's going to show you everything you've done in the file as a little movie. And a cool thing that's coming with our time lapses this year is you're going to be able to do all kinds of stuff to control the duration of the time lapse and whether or not you show undos and some nifty things like that. So get ready for that, folks. If you're ready to export that, you just hit export down at the bottom and it's going to save a movie and you can save it wherever you like. Pretty cool. All right, we'll cancel out of that. Other options, you have a capture pattern option. We're gonna do a special show on that because it's so cool. So stay tuned. That's coming up soon. Behance project. If you have a Behance profile, they're free. We're on Behance right now, folks. That's where I'm doing this show. You can go ahead and create a project right here within Fresco. Boom! It launches Behance and off you go. Okay. But another thing that you can only do in Adobe Fresco and a couple other Adobe products, but only here, is you could do a live stream right here from inside Fresco. Can you believe it? Now, because I'm already doing a live stream, I can't show you how this works too well, but if you tap over here on share, one of the options at the bottom says live stream. Now, folks, if you have a Behance profile, this will live stream straight to your profile. Whenever you want, you could do a fresh live stream. So go ahead and try that out. It's so simple. You literally hit live stream, you give it a title, and you hit go, and you're live. It's crazy. So try that out. All right, next thing I want to show you is as we've gone down all these tools, we've made our way down to the last one, which is simply an image. You can import photos from anywhere, from Creative Cloud, from your files, from your camera roll, or you can simply take a picture and then use that right away here in Fresco. All right, and this is something I always want to make sure people are aware of because it's great. Okay, well, we're going to move on now to some pretty advanced stuff and some stuff that I think we're going to also break down into greater detail in later shows. All right, starting with layers and all the fancy things that they do. So you've seen me create a whole bunch of layers over here, okay? Now, one of the things I want to do is I want to clean stuff up. I don't need all this action. And even though Fresco can save a ton of layers, here's what I want to do. I'm going to long tap on this layer, get my layer actions, and right here, the fifth option says select multiple. I'm just going to tap, 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 tap. See this? Select a whole bunch of layers all at once. And what I want to do is I want to delete these layers. Okay? So right here, you're going to see a couple little dots. This gives me options for what I want to do with my layers. I tap on that and say delete layers. Bye-bye. And here we are. Cleaning stuff up feels good. That's one of the things you can do. You can also show and hide layers, as we've seen before. Okay. But then you have some other options. Look over here, you've got clipping masks. We're going to have layer adjustments and other good things. So why don't we talk about some of these so that you understand a little bit about how they work. Let's start with this. I'm going to take a brush and I'm going to get something kind of fun. Let's get a paintbrush with block stain. I always love using this one. People are probably sick of me using this brush, but I just think it's a fun one. Now I'll put some color down like this, grab another color, and do something else. Okay, there we go. Made a little mess. Now watch this. Let's grab our selection tool here, a little polygonal lasso, okay? And let's do this. Make a little silhouette of a person, okay? So I've got a selection there now. Look at the bottom. I've got my options for my selections, and the third one right in the middle is mask. So I'm going to say mask. Why is everything pink? Well, if you've used masking with Quick Mask in Photoshop, you're familiar with this color. It's just showing me, hey Kyle, look over here on the right. All right, see how my layer looks right now? Okay. The red area is the area that I'm going to hide from view. The white area, when you're looking over here, okay, is the area I'm going to show you. So there's a little half circle over here next to that layer. If I just swipe to the right or swipe to the left, I can go masking mode, and then I can see what things actually look like on my canvas. So what you see that's happened here is that my image has now been masked but not erased. Okay, in reality, if you look at the layer thumbnail here, all the stuff I painted before is still there. Nothing's changed. In fact, check this out. Let's grab another color and let's just paint through here. Notice how the paint is, if I paint out here, nothing's showing. Okay? That doesn't mean that paint isn't there. The paint is there. All right? It's still part of the image, I promise. And if you look at my layer thumbnail, you're going to see evidence of that right here. Okay? All that paint is actually on the canvas, but the mask is preventing you from seeing it. That's what's happening here. So, pretty cool. Masking allows you to work in a non-destructive way. It's one of everybody's favorite things about working digitally is having options, keeping your options open. So I can then work with this layer and I can have all this color and stuff. And this layer is masked, which means that all this stuff is still happening. All right. Check it out. If I come to my layer mask and I say, let's delete the mask. Oh, you see all that stuff I just painted? It's still on that layer, okay? Undo, so I come back to my little mask right there. While you have your mask, you can do things like this. I could grab a brush, all right? Now I'm in my mask mode here, and I could actually paint and I could reveal more of what's in the layer. Right? See down here, it says reveal or hide, right? So I could choose, do I want to hide more or reveal more? I want to reveal more. So then I just paint, 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 paint. It's going to reveal more. I could do the same thing with selections. I could refine this silhouette. I could come in here and say, let's change that nose a little bit and get a bit more specific with the mouth. And let's change that jaw. I can make that selection right there. And I could say hide. And then paint, whoops, wrong way, sorry. There we go. Paint away some of that action. Is it gone? Nope, it's still there. It's just that I've used the mask to hide it. Okay, so there you go. So there you have real masking, just like Photoshop, full on right here in Fresco. Okay, pretty nifty. Another thing you could do with your layers is you can do clipping masks. So let's do this. Make a very specific shape. Okay, bing, bong, bing, bong, bing, bang, bing, bing, bing. There's a shape. And right above it, I'm going to take another brush and I'm going to grab that leaf. And we'll use a block stain brush again. Doesn't matter. Make a new layer, start painting, and I go like that. Okay, now I want that to conform to the shape that's underneath it. Just tap on clipping mask. Right over here. Clip it, unclip it. Clip it, unclip it. Immediately takes on that shape. Pretty handy right there. So clipping masks and masks, just like Photoshop, are here in Fresco. How nice, how nice. Well, let's unclip that for a moment, okay? And let's check this out. Layer properties. Layer blending is a thing everybody loves. Blending modes. Well, guess what? They're all here, folks. All the blending modes. Saturation, divide, hard mix, hard light, overlay, color dodge, all the things you come to expect, they're right there, okay? Reduce the opacity. These are your layer properties and they're right there. Fantastic, fantastic. Another thing that you're familiar with from your Photoshop stuff is locking layer transparency. So let's turn this guy back on. And this is similar to masking, but it is a destructive workflow. No biggie though. Tap on your layer. Look down here where it says lock transparency. Go ahead and turn that on. And grab another color and paint. Oh, just like a clipping mask. Just like a clipping mask. but you're painting directly on the layer for this kind of an effect. It basically takes whatever pixels have been activated, leaves them active, and anything else is not fair game anymore. Okay? Layer transparency. Now the reason I like this is because I can use watercolors and things like that inside of a layer, and I can get all those cool watercolory effects but not worry about going outside the edges. See what I mean? That's pretty cool. So there you go, there you go, there you go. Masking, clipping masks, importing images, text, drawing aids, multicolor swatches, snapline, time-lapse, exporting images, all these things. Reference layer fill, locking transparency. This leaves perspective and animation. Now in 5 minutes, can I cover both of those? Not really. We're going to do some nice deep dives on those, not in the not too distant future. But to quickly introduce you, to wrap up this second part of the series and this introductory course here for Fresco, what I want you to do, whoops, bear with me, my computer just decided to go to sleep like it does, is this. Look down here, okay? You've got 3 options, layers, and then you've got your layer properties, and then here you've got this little guy. You can control the snapping for rotation. Okay, so here we're getting into precision mode, right? Precision. You've got alignment guides, right, where things can align with one another on the canvas, etc. And you've got grids. Now, the first type of grid you have is a graph. Simple. You want to control the spacing of the graph, you can simply slide up and down. All right. Nothing snaps to the grid, okay, but that's coming. However, it's still really, really useful for being precise and for getting little points. And I like to use it for animation, so I know exactly how far I want to move something and align it with something else. Okie dokie. And now, perspective grids. Well, here's where things get crazy. Let's start with a 1-point perspective. If you got 1-point perspective, 2-point, and even 3-point, okay? You can edit your vanishing points. See this? Drag them everywhere you like. Right? Offset your horizon line, etc., etc. When you like what you see, you can control the grid color. Okay, so you got 3 different colors you can have for 3 different vanishing point lines, right? And best of all, here you go, folks, snap to grid for drawing. If I snap to that grid, well, as you can imagine, everything just, let's make a layer, there we go. Everything is just going to pop, 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 snap in place. Couldn't be simpler. Works with any brush. It even works with watercolor brushes and oils. You know what I mean? This is crazy times right here. So this will save you hours and hours of work. Okay, perspective drawing right there, incredible. And I don't want you to miss this because it's amazing. You can create a perspective grid from an image, a layer, or a document. I swear it's like magic. And we're going to show you how to do that in another show because it's really something. But check out that feature. If you go to my TikTok or my Instagram, you'll see me do a little reel on that. All right. Alrighty. Now, you could also watch back the show I did with Cody where I used that for the stove that we drew together for her show that just retired. It was the last episode of the show. And was Draw This in Your Style. You can check out that episode, see how that works. So lots to talk about with all the grids there, okay? And this is the big one, folks, animation. Right down here. See this little guy? Animation. Animation makes it possible for you to do everything. Here comes a little birdie. I'm gonna add a frame. Turn on my onion skinning. Pow. Now I can see that bird. Boo boo. Add another frame. And now the bird is flapping its wings. You have frame by frame animation, and you even have path animation. So everything can move along the path. Folks, it's bananas. There's a lot to talk about there. Well, we're out of time, I'm afraid. And so it is time once again for us to say see you later. But I hope you enjoyed this. We got through a whole ton of stuff, and a lot of this we're going to get into with a lot more detail. And so I hope you will stay tuned for Let's Go Fresco, because this show is going to be great. We're going to really show you what you can do with this powerful app. Fresco, can you believe it, is entering its 4th year. So crazy stuff is coming. We've got Liquify right around the corner. We've got Magic selections, and we've got so much more coming, and I can't wait to demo all these for you. And go download it. It's free. It's free. It's free. Get Fresco. Go play with it. Enjoy it. Until next time, folks, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Remember to please be kind. And I will say, ciao for now.